I don't have to worry about my union computer. They won't upgrade it until the next upgrade comes out.
Okay, hey Jen, good morning. We've had people respond in the chat. I think you can see faces on the screen. Can you let us know if we have a quorum here?
I sure will. Good morning, everybody, and please excuse my tardiness.
No worries.
It appears we have a quorum.
All right, great, thank you. Welcome everybody this morning. As I mentioned a little bit earlier here, Dave Malone is unable to join this morning. So as vice chair, I'm going to step into that role for today. And I know he's going to be sorry to miss today because we have some really exciting things to talk about. So thank you all for joining us. Housekeeping at the outset, please remember to identify yourself in the chat as present for this meeting. That's how we're going to handle the roll call. Also, please be reminded, as you just heard, these meetings are recorded and they're posted publicly at the Partner4Work YouTube site. The full agenda and materials are available at the link posted in the chat. And before we go on to business, I want to digress for one thing. I think as all of you know, Partner4Work sometimes nominates board members or others for awards for which they are deserving. And I'm really, really thrilled to announce that our own Erin Dalton has been selected as one of the Women of Influence for 2022. So Erin, we don't see your face because I know how you would say this, but congratulations. There is just no more deserving candidate. And we're absolutely thrilled for you.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
So there is an award ceremony and a reception on May 25th, and you all will get more information about that. But Erin, congratulations again.
Thanks much.
Early this month, you all received an email asking you to complete an online statement of financial interests. And first of all, thank you to those who have already done so. If you're not sure if you have done so, let Jen know. If you have not done so, please fill it out and return it promptly. It only takes a couple of minutes to do, and it's obviously a critical compliance piece of what we do. So please do that. They have to be in hand by May 1st. But don't run up against that deadline. Let's get those cleaned up. I don't know if I didn't see Jennifer Nestor on. Is somebody from the state on? Anybody want to comment at all on the statement of financial interests at this point? Okay.
I do. This is Jennifer Nestor.
Oh, you are there. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see your screen.
I just logged in. No, I don't have any comments on those at this time. Thank you.
Sure. And thanks for joining us. And I don't know, Jennifer, if you were here, if you can log in on the chat as well, just so that we have that record of attendance, that would be great.
Yes, I will do. The meeting link, it was giving me some issues, so I just logged in.
Sorry about that. Okay. We're moving on to the consent agenda. It is a fairly robust consent agenda in your packets, and it includes several items, including the approval of the revised minutes from September 2021, minutes from December, contract awards, acceptance of the audit, and Form 990 submissions and policy revisions and updates. Does anybody want to remove any item from the consent agenda for separate discussion? Okay, I believe that we have some abstentions from a number of these items. Dr. Bullock, Carrie Harris.
Yes.
Hey, I'm on the APRI board, so I'll abstain.
So Dr.
Good morning.
Oh, sorry.
This is Marcy. I think I have to abstain too.
Okay, which item?
Pittsburgh Public. Thank you.
Thank you. Karis, I think you have an abstention too.
Yes.
Okay. Any other abstentions? Okay, hearing none and hearing no further discussion, that consent agenda is deemed approved. Thank you all for that. At this point, we're going to move into the more substantive part of our discussion. And Susie, I'm going to ask you, if you would please, to lead us off with the Good Jobs Challenge proposal and what all is going on with that.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Thanks so much, Laura. It's good to see all of you. I have just a quick update on the Good Jobs Challenge proposal. So for those that don't remember, the Good Jobs Challenge is one of the substantive awards that's available through the federal EDA. The award itself, or the proposal itself, was due in February. It's a potential for $500 million in awards to build pipelines into career pathway occupations and get people into jobs that pay well and that have job quality attached to them. There are, like I said, $500 million available. EDA received 509 applications from across the country, so it will be a very competitive process. We do not expect to hear back from EDA until this summer about the award, but I wanted to walk you through what we were able to put together in Southwest PA, in part thanks to many of you on this call and the support of your organizations, and in part thanks to a lot of the work that we have done over the past 5 years to really build the groundwork to create pipelines and pathways that really positioned us to be able to respond in a comprehensive way to the Good Jobs Challenge. So there were one other fact about the proposals that went in. There were 18 proposals from Pennsylvania. Our proposal combined the Southwest PA region. So it's our WIOA region that includes Partner4Work. It includes Southwest Corner Workforce Development Board, Tri-County Workforce Development Board, and Westmoreland Fayette Workforce Development Board. And we looked at 5 different organizations or 5 different industries to really create pathways. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see. I will acknowledge before I put my screen up that you won't be able to read anything that's on it because it's very tiny. So I will zoom in as I go, but wanted to give you the kind of holistic view of the demand side. And then we'll walk through the supply side partners as well. But we started our conversations on the demand side with employers. Where is your urgent need? How do you perceive what your growth opportunities will be in the next 5 years? How do we position you as employers to be ready to grow? And what are your opportunities that you have? We also asked the question of employers, who are your trusted intermediaries that you are working with already so that we're not duplicating systems that already exist? So what you will see here is a system lead entity here in the top right corner of my screen, and that's the consortium of the 4 workforce development boards that I talked about. And then you'll see the backbone organizations, and I'll walk through each of these along with the industries that they represent. I will say that we had in our Good Jobs Challenge proposal submission 141 letters of support. 67 of those letters of support for our proposal were from employers guaranteeing 385 jobs out of this training programs, or the training programs that we put into the proposal, and guaranteeing to work with us on thousands more, filling thousands more. So it's really representative of a whole lot of conversation to build out pipelines, to work together with employers to make sure that training programs meet their needs, to center equity in the conversation, to make sure that we are thinking about not just rural and urban, because we have to have a representative geographic reach within the proposal in order to be successful, but also making sure that those populations who are most being left behind in the COVID recovery, people of color, women, disconnected youth, are really intentionally brought into the fold here and worked with in order to create pipelines. So on the demand side, we looked at 5 different industries, and I will zoom in on these, and you'll see the businesses here in the blue The navy blue bars are those who have signed on guaranteeing to work with us organizationally. And you see each industry has a backbone organization attached. So those backbone organizations are the entities that will pull together businesses within that industry in order to identify what the needs are and how we can work together more effectively to build out career pathways. The industries that we looked at are construction, technology, healthcare, financial services, and manufacturing. It's very important, and I'm being very precise, that we're talking about the construction industry and not construction as an occupation. So we are absolutely thinking about skilled trades and skilled tradespeople as an important occupation here that we need to be building career pathways for. But we are thinking more broadly than that with general contractors about what are the other needs of construction industry organizations, accountants, estimators, anything that goes into working at a construction organization. IT, you see that there are banks, there are apps, there are gas stations within the IT space, not just because we are looking at IT in a very narrow area, but we are looking very broadly at both startups and established businesses and creating those pipelines. So in construction, working with the Master Builders Association to identify what the needs of those businesses are. In technology, working with the Pittsburgh Tech Council to build out and build on the successes that we've had with Apprenti, which is the first registered apprenticeship in the IT space here in Pennsylvania. In healthcare, we are looking at not just those kind of entry-level career pathways, but looking at registering apprenticeships in occupations like radiology technicians, nursing, and more. The Freedom House 2.0 programming to expand pathways into EMT is actually graduating a class today at 11 o'clock. So if you have time and you are interested in joining me at the Energy Innovation Center, you are more than welcome to come and see that class graduate. And financial services, we are looking, of course, at expanding BankWorks, but also looking at a universal banker position that creates an additional career pathway into the banking industry. And then in manufacturing, looking at expanding on apprenticeship work that Catalyst Connection and the German American Chamber of Commerce has done. Our goals here are both to train job seekers within Allegheny County, of course, but also the surrounding counties. There will be 2,000 job seekers trained through this training, ideally. And we are looking at a pretty comprehensive mix of incumbent worker training, so training those job seekers that are currently in those entry-level roles to take on advanced roles, and then creating a pipeline to backfill the roles that exist once those incumbent workers move up. This is just the demand side of the equation. The supply side of the equation includes a really comprehensive mix of both community colleges, and Dr. Bullock, thank you very much. CCAC helped to lead the community college effort to think broadly about how we can create new training programs and leverage what already exists to make sure that we are preparing individuals within our region for the high demand jobs that are coming down the pike. We have a mix of training providers that we currently work with, and left room within the proposal to say that we know that we don't know everything right now, and that there are quite a few jobs that we will be training for in the next year that we haven't developed the training programming for. And so we will need to develop that with the employers at the table. Within the supply side as well, there's a comprehensive group of supportive service organizations working from organizations that partner with Allegheny County DHS to the surrounding counties. I'll let Joel talk a little bit more about BEAM and the good work that he's doing, but BEAM is included in the proposal along with the First Source Center here in the Hill District of Pittsburgh to help build out single entrepreneurial occupations and to help build out small businesses within these industries as well. And then the other component of this that's really important is that we can't train our way exclusively out of this challenge. And so we looked at what else we need to do in order to advance the workforce development system in order to meet the needs of both job seekers and employers. And the two things that we've included here that are really going to, I think, help us move this to the next level are a comprehensive outreach strategy where we are working with a third-party outreach firm to make sure that both job seekers and businesses know who we are and what we are trying to do, as well as a comprehensive professional development strategy for workforce development professionals within the region. So we know, and I put myself squarely into this bucket, I have worked at Partner4Work for 8 years. It has been absolutely wonderful. However, I did not grow up thinking I'm going to work for a workforce development board. That may surprise many of you. I fell into workforce development right out of college. I had the great benefit of being a Literacy Pittsburgh AmeriCorps volunteer right out of college, and worked with refugees and teaching English as a second language, and then started as a job developer. But a lot of what I learned kind of by accident or happenstance or just trying something out. And so we really want to professionalize the workforce development space here in our region, help make it a destination career pathway, and make sure that the people who are doing the job development work have a training program in place so that they understand what's available and so that they don't feel like they have to duplicate things that already exist. One bedrock of this application that is really important is that our system here in Southwestern Pennsylvania for delivering workforce development services is the PA Career Link. We are not running away from that. We are running towards that, right? The workforce development programming that we've included in the Good Jobs Challenge will build on Career Link, will help us fill gaps that WIOA doesn't allow us to do, but will push the public system forward for the benefit of the region. So we are really looking to augment what we do at CareerLink, not supplant it, and not try to create something separate from that work. So I've just gone through quite a bit. I see, Will, you have your hand up. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
That was a great presentation, and just tremendous work with you and your team, and just mapping out this entire model. I think it's phenomenal, and I think it gives everybody on the board just assurance on the execution of the team, and it's just phenomenal work. But I would make a comment is that I didn't see any minority or Black businesses on the employer side. And I know a lot of the people we work with are in those demographics. And when it comes to, I think, just having a sense of like presence, equality, and understanding and feeling inclusive, they want to work with people who come from where they come from and can relate to them as well, but also have other opportunities like a PNC, like a UPMC, and much larger businesses. But and I know a lot of those Black and minority businesses do need employers as well. As you know, I've been working on some projects here and looking at that and understanding some gaps there. So it could be something to where, we could talk more collaboratively about that, and even working with other, kind of minority and Black businesses around that, have hiring needs and want to hire local. So just thinking about that, something that you could consider, but I just didn't see any on the list of employers.
Absolutely. Well, that's a well taken point. And we have supports for Black businesses on the kind of supply side diagram that's not here, but we don't have as many minority and Black owned businesses that we should here on the demand side. So we welcome any and all help with that.
A great point, Will. Thank you. Ike?
Yeah, I'd just be curious of each of the ones that are listed there, the job opportunities, how much they pay. And if, I know a lot of times you get starter jobs, but, within 3 to 5 years, what's the potential to get some idea what kind of jobs, the quality of the jobs, that kind of thing that we're trying to get folks interested in.
Great question. So EDA set a definition of good jobs that they have to lead towards family sustaining wages if they don't as an entry level pathway. Most of the jobs listed, there are a few in the $13 an hour range, but most of them are in the $15 to $18 an hour range as starting jobs, and many of them are higher than that. There were some employers, especially in the manufacturing side, who were starting at $10 an hour that we said, we welcome conversations with you, but we're not interested in training for jobs that pay $10 an hour at this point. So we did, with some employers start to say, we're absolutely happy to help you advance your job quality efforts, but we need to work on wages if we're going to leverage public resources in order to train people for those jobs.
Deb, I think you had your hand, and then Nancy.
Yeah, thank you. I totally echo everything that Will said. I think this is amazing effort, application, the structural framework. I really applaud you for it. I guess one of the questions I had is, are the organizations and people you've listed here, do they serve as a base? Is there capacity for expansion? So I saw only certain chambers of commerce, only certain educational organizations. As we just discussed, Will said, obviously, wanting to have more Black businesses involved. How does that work if we were fortunate to get this?
Our hope, if we are fortunate enough to receive these funds, is that as soon as word gets out, we'll be fielding lots of different calls from employers. We'll be adding employers, organizations to this list. So there's absolutely room for more businesses who are interested in creating those pathways, and more organizations that are interested in supporting job seekers.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy, you raised your real hand. That counts here.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't see my that little function on my screen. But I'm wondering, is the Healthcare Council of Western Pennsylvania, is that the same as the Southwest Pennsylvania Area Health Education Center? Are those two names for the same organization, or are they two separate organizations?
They're two separate organizations.
Well, are we in touch then with the Southwest Pennsylvania Area Health Education Center? Because they too are training community healthcare workers. And I think they have a very large grant from another foundation to do that work. And I've been in touch with Michael Bowersox from that organization. And I think we could, if we had a conversation with them, I think it would be a good idea.
I welcome that. Thank you, Nancy.
And I do want to say, I certainly underscore what Will Allen had to say about having Black-owned businesses on the discussion at the very beginning. Thank you.
Great. Carrie.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I also want to commend Susie and her team. This is really exciting. And just selfishly, Literacy Pittsburgh is excited to be included, right? And that Susie and her team really thought about what it was going to take to dig further back in the pipeline of people with more limited skills, especially language skills. And so we're excited that there's an opportunity to run some programs for English language learners, and to provide some basic skill support across programs in this challenge. I think it's a nice insurance policy that we will be able to meet the demands that employers have. So we're glad to be part of it.
Great. Anybody else? I'm not seeing hands, virtual or live. Anybody else want to comment here? I'm going to take the liberty just really quickly of weighing in as well. This is just absolutely outstanding work from the staff, from this board, from this community. It has long been, ever since I've been on this board, the holy grail to be able to provide the whole continuum, right, to an actual job. And I'll just speak personally for myself and for the organizations that I work with, the people in these communities, whether it's youth, whether it's people who are looking for a job, what they want to know is tell me what the job is first, and then I'll decide if I want to invest the time and effort in the training. That is not an unreasonable question to ask. And it's being increasingly asked, particularly by the next generation of workers across the board. And so the ability to define the job and the reasonable expectation, if not promise of a job at the far end, is the first order of business for a really effective workforce system. So this framework delivers that. I've never seen anything like it before. It is extraordinary. So I'm going to make two comments about it. One is, I have every faith in this team to be able to drive the funding that this justly deserves. So I am incredibly optimistic about that. I do think that we should think about how we would use this irrespective of the receipt of that funding. This thing that has been built, these connections that have been built, as supplemented by Will Allen's point, which I could not echo more strongly. And I think it illustrates a point. The chart that Susie put up is an incredibly valuable device. I think it really powerfully illustrated the point Will raises, right? Demonstrative exhibits, talk to his trial lawyer, are incredibly powerful. One of the jobs of this board is to be ambassadors for Partner4Work. We can have all the administrative programs and advertising programs we want, but it is the integrity and influence of the members of this board that will really make Partner4Work valuable. That document is an incredibly valuable talking point for any of you if you're talking about the things that Partner4Work is trying to accomplish and is trying to build. I think you will agree with me. You've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. It is amazing work. And it's one thing to try to explain what Partner4Work does. I think if Susie had given just the verbal narrative of that chart, with all due respect, Susie, we love you. We'd be half asleep right now and it would be 10 o'clock. That chart is an incredibly powerful device for each one of us to convey the importance and significance of Partner4Work and what it does. So I really commend it to you. And I ask each of you to give some affirmative thought about how you might print that and use that, say, at some point next week with your constituencies, because that's part of our responsibility of board members here. So with that, hey, Jennifer and Esther, I'm going to come back to you and just sort of at the close of each session, anything that you want to offer here on this particular topic?
Not at this time. I can wait until the public comment.
Okay, perfect. All right. With that, hearing no, oh yeah, I'm sorry, Scott. We can't hear you. Can you, yep.
Okay. Laura and Rob especially there. So if we don't get the funding on this, does, because Laura, I hear what you're saying about these things. Does this really create a roadmap for us to kind of figure out different ways to make this all happen? Or is this the roadmap for where Partner4Work should be going over the next 3 or 4 years?
This is definitely the roadmap and the regional template that has probably been needed for a really long time. So what this grant has given us the opportunity to do is go through this regional exercise here with training providers, with different sectors, and really pull everyone together and really have that conversation around how do we coordinate and engage with each other. So this is the template moving forward. And so far as the best part about the grant was just going through the exercise of engaging everyone and building this model like that. So regardless of the grant, and I don't like to talk like that, I want to talk is that, this is what happened. This is our model moving forward. And this is the way that we've internally discussed this model and intend to move forward with it.
Great. No, that's good. And I hate talking about negative, but it's all great work, Susie and your team and Rob, as far as providing that roadmap there. But I just want to confirm the fact that this is what we're doing, because I think what Laura was saying was pretty powerful about how we can share about what our mission is and what we're going to be doing going forward. Will we be getting a copy of this, or is there something around there? Was it in the board packet that I didn't see? I apologize.
Yeah, no, Jen's going to be sending that around to everybody post meeting, so you'll all have it. And just a little silly thing, right? When you're talking to a business, rather than explaining the entire world of Partner4Work, show them the chart and say, "Want to be in this column?
Yep.
You ought to be. Want me to add you to this column?" And then you it over to the Partner4Work team to get into the guts of what that means. But it's just a really easy way to kind of get people in the door and make them be a part of the system. There is an important sort of piece of all of this that Will and Joel are going to talk about as well. So why don't we, not to truncate this discussion completely, but let's move on to the discussion of the Beam Collective and the work that they're doing. And then maybe we can talk about how these two things really can fit together well. So Joel, Will, I don't know who's starting this off. I apologize.
I am Laura. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see those of you I know, those I don't know. It's nice to meet you. I can share this real quick. Give me just a moment to set this up. Can everybody see that? Wonderful. So let me move some things. There we go. All right. Well, that conversation really set itself up nicely for what I'm going to talk about. So I appreciate that. So for this is one of the worst kept secrets in town these days, but Beam is a new organization that Will Allen, myself, Trisha Warwick started looking into right after George Floyd. We have spent about 18 months putting together a concept around how do we scale Black businesses so that they have an impact, not just in their communities, but in the region as a whole. And so before I do that, before I tell you a little bit about Beam, I want to just throw out a couple quick shout outs to some folks on this call that have been very, very influential. Dave Malone, who's not on here today, has been really, really fantastic about getting us some introductions to help kind of get this ball rolling. Debbie Kaplan and Nancy Washington have been really, really great about sharing ideas with us. We have shared ideas with them along the way. They've been really, really good about helping us, kind of put this together. And last but not least, Rob Cherry. I can't thank you enough for all the support along the way about giving us, helping us figure out the businesses and strategy and putting all this together. And we think it does tie directly into a lot of the work that was just being mentioned and Partner4Work. And so we're really excited to share this. Quite frankly, and this goes against typically my presentation skills, but quite frankly, you are the first audience as a group to hear this presentation. So we hope you like it today. So I'm going to do this for about 10 or so minutes. I'd love some feedback, some questions and stuff afterwards. Please don't hesitate. We are more than happy to get into some of the details around this. So BEAM stands for Black Economic Advancement and Mobility. Here we go. When we talk about this, often people question us as to why is it necessary to support the scaling of Black businesses? So let me start with a little bit of what the problem is, which I think will kind of help with what the why is. Cincinnati, their largest Black business is $500 million. Tampa, their largest Black business is $1.1 billion. St. Louis, their largest Black business is $13 billion. Now they happen to be the largest Black business in the country. Pittsburgh, I'd ask you, I'd do that as a poll and see what we see, but Pittsburgh's largest Black business is 25 million. Let me do that really quickly again. The largest in Cincinnati is 500 million, the largest in Tampa is 1.1 billion, and the largest in St. Louis is 13 billion. The largest in Pittsburgh is $25 million. And so we saw that as a problem. We chose cities that were comparable. We didn't choose Atlanta's, New York, San Francisco's, DC's. We chose cities that we thought MSAs were very similar to ours. We thought that that would be a great area to figure out how do we start to solve this particular problem. If you take the Pittsburgh Business Times top minority list, the top 50 minority list, and you X out everybody who isn't Black and you just take the Black businesses, the total revenue does not equal 100 million. 100 total revenue. If you take Cincinnati's top 3 businesses, it's almost $1 billion. So we have a lot of work to do. And so when Will and I started this with Trisha, we really wanted to focus going down this path around how do we solve this particular problem. Along that path, Joe Massaro, was on a similar path working in the construction space. We partnered with Joe and brought the ideas together. So Joe Massaro and myself work on this on the day-to-day. We are engaged in Beam. Will is the chairman of the board, and Tricia Warwick is the vice chair. So what the region does really, really well is help Black businesses start. They do a pretty good job of that. There's a lot of stuff in the system to get them going. But the area improvement really is about how are they going to scale, and why does scale matter? Well, Black people tend to employ Blacks at a much higher rate than non-Blacks. And so it's difficult to think about changing community's trajectory when you don't have people that aren't gainfully employed, right? Which everybody on this call knows so well. So get this stat. In America, a Black dollar stays in the Black community for an average of 7 minutes. And so that means that when a Black person is hired and they pay their bills, the majority of their income is going to non-Blacks. This in turn reduces the opportunities for other Blacks to be successful. Growing Black businesses, however, not only hire Blacks, but they could also provide opportunities to Black businesses to be vendors. This would increase the length of time that the Black dollar stays in the community, because now the Black dollar not just supports one Black person, but it supports two. And if you start to expand that out, the money starts to move through the community. Multiple studies we've seen as we started to do our research have shown that the quality of employment leads to better health outcomes, which again, people on this call are fully aware of. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in some of the studies we've looked into. So high level, the three objectives that we're focusing on are creating Black jobs, creating Black job opportunities, creating Black supply chain, and improving the social determinants of health. And that goes right into our core mission, which is creating generational wealth in the Black community through business growth. So why Black? So here's the problem. When you look at the wealth inequity in the United States, you can see that the gap between whites and Blacks is $101 trillion. And that is continuing to expand. What I love about this chart, well, let me not say love. What I find fascinating about this chart is that this is 1990 to 2019. This isn't Jim Crow. This isn't slavery. This isn't segregation. This is happening right in front of our face. And as much as we talk about real estate, there is a portion of that, but $101 trillion is business growth. This is the folks in the Jeff Bezos of the world. And I use Jeff Bezos because I've been questioned about, whether he's included in these numbers. And I said, of course, because last time I checked, I don't see that many Black people ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. I don't see that many Black people ringing the bell at the NASDAQ. So yes, I'm including them because those are the opportunities that we are not always afforded. What else is sort of fascinating in this, and I'll go into this, is that most of the minorities are somewhere between this blue line and the pink line, right? So Blacks are at the bottom of this particular level. And so we started to really look into that and go, okay, we're going to focus on Blacks. We are not going to focus on minorities. And we've seen that if you put the minority scope together, the numbers do change. If you include Indians, Asians, women, veterans, the numbers do change. What isn't changing is the Black community. And in Pittsburgh, that is our largest minority. So when you look at these numbers from the 2018 census, the total business received was $13 trillion. Of that, whites generated 11.6 trillion, women generated 1.7, veterans 947 billion. Now, veterans and women are included in other categories, right? Asians are 863, Hispanics 455, and Blacks are 127 billion. That's across the country. The numbers in Pittsburgh are very similar to this on a percentage basis. So that means that 13% of the population generates only less than 1% of the total business revenue. We saw that as inequity. We saw that as a big problem. And to add to that, women have 1.1 million total businesses. Blacks have a little over 1 million businesses. So roughly the same number of businesses generating significantly less per business. One of the scariest parts of this is that Hispanics generate 455 billion with only 330,000 businesses. So with a third of the total number of businesses, they generate 4 times the revenue. So we saw this as a scalable problem. So what we decided was we were going to focus on how do we start to impact the scaling part of this. And so we wanted to focus our portfolios. Our portfolio is the companies of Black businesses that we want to support. Number one being there are established Black businesses. They have the ability to create jobs. That is a big piece of what we are trying to do, which is part of the relationship with Rob and Partner4Work, and getting them on that side of the list as Will brought up. the demand side, ability to create supply chain. They have to be able to circulate that dollar within the community. And we look for high potential leaders in high potential industries. Not everybody wants to grow to $100 million. And so that's okay. We have no issues with those folks. There's lots of people that we need a lot of services, but the ones that do should be afforded the opportunity to do so. Two of the big things that we're looking at, let me move this screen a little bit, I apologize. Two of the big things that we're looking at here from this objective piece is there's two things that we're doing really differently. Number one is this reactive versus proactive strategy. Typically, Black businesses create what they want to create because that's what they want to do. Studies have shown that Blacks tend to pick industries with low barriers of entry. Typically, a business with a low barrier entry has a high failure rate. So that's a challenge. So we need people to be more proactive. We need them to understand what the next venture is, where the industries are going, and build businesses for the future. The second one is growing the local economy. Every dollar in Pittsburgh generates $1.96. Every dollar circulated in Pittsburgh. That's the Allegheny Conference's number. So every dollar spent here generates $1.96 in return. Because we don't have a swath of Black businesses, we are actually exporting that dollar outside of the region and it doesn't come back. So we're actually losing a significant amount of return. And we use this to talk to our anchor partners. Our anchor partners are our corporate partners, to explain to them why it's important that they invest in Black businesses. We use this to explain to everybody. We think that stat is powerful and important. So how do we go about doing that? Well, we came up with 4 real core strategies about what we're going to be doing. Number one is building businesses. So we do that in conjunction with our anchor partners, where, again, anchors are our corporates. They're anybody of our partner. Partner4Work is an anchor partner in our process. What does the industry need? What do we need? Where is the region going? What do we need in 2 years, 3 years? Let's start to think about building those businesses. Could we make pivot for some of those? That could be in our expand categories. Our expand category are businesses that are doing well, that really need the extra love to continue to grow and create those jobs. Third is our attract category. We do think that there are opportunities. We know that we have heard, Will and I have absolutely heard of companies that would love to come to Pittsburgh, but they can't get enough opportunities here to justify being here, which means they're not creating jobs locally. So we want to have some strategy to bring some of those folks here as they see fit. So we know we don't have the capability yet. We know we don't have all of the businesses ready, but that doesn't mean we can't attract Black businesses here to hire Black people. And lastly, mergers and acquisitions. And we have looked into some of these studies in high level. The 57%, according to the SBA, 57% of all business owners in the United States are above the age of 60. That doesn't mean they are at 60, they are above the age of 60. So we have seen that there's going to be a lot of retirement. We have anchors, our corporate partners are calling us saying, hey, so-and-so just called and they're closing up their business. They're just closing up shop, leaving town. They're retiring and leaving. We'd like to have that opportunity to potentially match them with a talented Black individual or a few individuals to buy that company. We think that is an accelerant to what's happening. If we were able to do one of those a year, in 10 years, we'd have 10 new multi-million-dollar companies. So it's something we just don't want to miss. The theory of what we're doing, why we call it the Beam Collaborative, is we do think that there should be more co-collaboration happening between Black businesses and our corporate partners. Currently, as many of you are going to know, typically buying or being a vendor or purchasing something or getting contracted is almost adversarial to some degree, right? It's this little bit of buyer-seller dance. It's well, you got to give me, I got to give you, right? And so that's not collaborative, and so that really is a barrier. And so we have looked back and seen that anchors actually are super interested in being inclusive. Not everybody, but there are a number out there that want to, but they lack the time, resources, and expertise to do so effectively. Black businesses at the same time want to do the same thing. They also want to grow. They want contracts. They want to do real work. They want to be valued and paid for that. They're not asking for anything other than that, but they also lack the time, resources, and expertise to do so. So what our objective is to match this up, start playing in that middle space to make sure these types of things happen. And this co-collaborative strategy, not new. So McKinsey did a whole study on this with the Michigan State University, and the study was around supplier corporate collaboration. And here were the results. companies that do this outperform their peers by 2 times. 2 times. Like, move this back. Other companies, in addition, they lower their operating costs, which of course in turn create greater profit. And so what was great about this study they did was the study was about suppliers and corporations. It had nothing to do with diversity. So what we've figured out over this time period is that these are all mechanisms and things happening in the system, but nobody's ever given it to the Black community. Nobody's ever focusing on this stuff. It's all happening in the white world and it's all happening really well and it's successful. We're seeing results. How do we start to bring that to the Black community? And that is what BEAM is really focusing on, is bringing some of these things to our community, to our people, to our town, to make sure that things look different in the future. To give you a quick update, here are some of the organizations that have already signed MOUs, have agreed to work with us. We have 8: Carnegie Mellon, Giant Eagle, Duquesne Light, Sheets, University of Pittsburgh, the Steelers, Highmark, and Partner4Work have all agreed to work with us through these processes, through these projects. We are pretty proud of that. Since we've been up and running, the Hillman Foundation has given us some startup money to do this. We got that money about 4.5 months ago, and we already got 8 partners to sign up on this. So we are very excited by that, which goes to show you that the region does care. A lot of work ahead of us, a lot of work to do, but people are willing to commit the time and energy. The Allegheny Conference is our fiscal sponsor at this stage. And lastly, Dr. Lyons, and some of you may not know this, but Dr. Lyons he used to be the Chief Procurement Officer at Rutgers University and has committed a significant amount of time to unique and innovative procurement strategies. When I say Chief Procurement Officer, I mean all of the State University of New Jersey, from the football stadiums to the food and the cafeterias, everything. And so he's dedicated his new work to this sort of innovative procurement themes and theories. He's done everything from the New York Transit Authority to Philadelphia's to Chicago's, so major cities, and he did studies here, which we'll be able to share at another time. But one of the most important parts was, before he did that, he was hired to look at the impact of supplier readiness and how it affects the social determinants of health, and has done research around this, and obviously around how supplier readiness and capacity building leads to more contracts, which then of course leads to the impacts in the social determinants of health, access to healthcare, economic stability, job creation, employment, and social community and support. And so we're going to have some more access to some of that information as we continue to grow. But we thought it was a pretty important connection that not everybody always makes. It's obvious once we say it, but we don't want people to forget about it. And lastly, when we do this, typically people say to us, hey, how can we help? So I like to share with everybody, there's really 4 things we're looking for at this stage of the game. Number 1, anchor partners. If there's a corporation, doesn't have to be the PNCs of the world. There are companies with 200 employees, 300 employees that just want to do something different. They would like to change. If there are anybody out there that that's interested in being a little innovative, finding some opportunities, send them our way. We have a real quick 4-step engagement strategic planning process to help our corporates and our anchors work through how they can make real impact. Number 2, identify any high potential Black businesses. Deb and Nancy know this all too well. Identifying Black businesses in Pittsburgh is an immense challenge. It's immense. And so, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And if anybody wants to ask me, I'll be happy to share that. But there are a lot of challenges around doing that. So if you know of a high potential Black business, and I say high potential being a great leader who really does want to grow in a great sector, because that's where we're going to drive growth, right? And so if you have any of those, please let us know. Number 3, share your expertise. We just agreed to work with the University of Pittsburgh on a very specific project. This specific project involves scientific knowledge. We do not have any experience in scientific knowledge, but we do know people that do. And so we were able to connect with some folks who were really, really well versed in this, that really wanted to be engaged. And that expertise is going to be invaluable, very, very specific knowledge. So if anybody has anything like that, we would love to use that. And lastly, sometimes there's just folks out there that are motivated to do good work and just want to hear the story. We'd love to have conversations and share with people. With that, Thank you very much. I don't have anything else, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have anything.
Fantastic, Joel. That was just fantastic. Thank you so much. Floor is open. Can we take down, Joel, can we take down the presentation?
Yes.
See folks?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I have a question, Joel. In regards to the larger companies in St. Louis and in Cincinnati, from a diversity standpoint, how do those companies, do their diversity numbers kind of line up with what we think, nationally with, minority or Black-owned businesses?
It's a really good question that I have not delved into. I will. It's a good question I haven't thought of, Rob. I will surely look into it. The one in St. Louis, WWT, is 13 billion, so I'm not even sure. The other one down in Tampa is a Coke distributor, so I don't know. And the one in Cincinnati is a construction, so there's probably some union and so on and so forth in there. But it's a great question that I'm going to look into, but I don't have an answer for you. Sorry. Carrie, I think you have a question.
Yeah, thanks. This is super exciting. Thank you so much for sharing it and everything you're doing. I'm curious if you've seen groups like yours in other cities where the ecosystem's a little friendlier to Black business. Are there groups like yours and anything we can learn from them?
That's a great question, Carrie. We've talked to Boston, Cincinnati, San Diego, Baltimore, DC. I know I'm missing one somewhere in there. So we've had conversations, and yes, there are similar organizations out there, not quite the same scale. And I'll tell you where some of the challenges lie, which makes us really unique, is most of them that we have talked to are programs or part of city government. And so there are some unique challenges that change because of those. So some are part of a chamber of commerce, right? Which means the Chambers Board, this is a program, so they have less control over the program. City government, obviously you run into a slew of different challenges when it's in the city government. And then there are others that are in the university system. So you're seeing a lot at HBCUs or within the university system, which again brings some different challenges. So as far as we know, we are the only one that it will be an independent 501c3. I cannot imagine that is true, but we don't know of another one yet that is. And so what we've seen is that they hit hurdles that we don't have, like they don't get quite the same level of support or the same level of buy-in from the board. We have actually, because we have our own constituted board, we saw that as something that we thought would drive us a bit differently. So because we do know, candidly, when we looked, we realized Pittsburgh's challenges were a bit different than other cities, that we had a long way to go in a lot of respects, and that we really needed to reframe how we were going to do it. So it does address some of the unique challenges in Pittsburgh. Nancy?
Joel, this is so exciting. Well, you know how excited I am about the work that you're doing. So thank you. So there are a lot of problems, a lot of challenges, but are there opportunities? So what bright lights do you see here in the Pittsburgh area that we have, that we can use and build on as we go forward?
Sure. I think what's interesting is there's, let's take the one that we're sort of focusing on right now, which is not autonomous vehicles, but electric vehicles, right? There are some unique areas where we have opportunities, mainly because we have relationships with both Sheetz and Giant Eagle, which both own gas stations, right? And so we think that there's just all of these components, right? So as we start to have the conversations with our anchors, we start to see where those opportunities lie. We also have a great university system, and we do see that there are Black people coming into town, being educated, and then leaving. So we do know we have talent if we were able to funnel them in through the right systems. We know there are other organizations in here. I know Josh Pollard's on the call, like Amacello Cares has a great organization. The Riverside has a great organization. There's lots of ways to keep those people, but we've seen people leave because they topped out. They topped out around 500,000 and had to go to Atlanta or DC. So we still actually recruit pretty talented Black people to Pittsburgh. We just don't retain them, right? So I do think that's a talent that we have, and that's not going to stop. We just got to be better at keeping them here. So I do think that's a positive. And I do think if all of these organizations come together to think about beginning business, early stage, middle stage, and then late stage businesses, we actually can retain them into the right areas and sectors. So I do think that is a positive that we have going for us. So. Linda, I saw your hand.
Yes. So a couple of years back, the major companies here that made up the minority supply chain network and trying to figure out, where do we need, where are there gaps in the system and where are there opportunities and why aren't they being filled? And I'm not suggesting that you're suggesting that this is becoming supply chain businesses to the larger white-run companies here. What I am questioning though, or asking about is, do we know, you mentioned about a directory or, some inventory, how do we know how many Black-owned businesses there are here, or minority-owned businesses? Is that an undertaking worth doing so that we have some sense, even if there's a tier of, someone that has a lawn service versus someone that's trying to launch, a $1 billion company? And if so, do we still have a sense of the market opportunity, the gaps, and where they are or aren't being filled? Is it a lack of access to capital, expertise, not being aware that there is a market opportunity? So that's one piece. What are we doing about those that are here? To your second point about talent, we know very definitively from the largest employers here who lose diverse talent that they've recruited here, and they tend to leave at the 2 to 3 year mark. And one of the chief reasons they leave is a lack of ability to establish a community here, whether that community is a personal network, a professional network, or an opportunity network. And so here's yet another example of where, we're in our own way when we have an opportunity to keep that talent here by embedding them into, an opportunity like this. So kind of two questions, but this one, I'd be interested in your point of view.
Sure. So Linda, let me make sure I'm following the first one. The first part of the question was around a comprehensive list of who those companies were and where their gaps were. Is that the first question?
What regions gaps are? What are the market opportunities if you do want to start a business? And then why aren't they built?
So Dr. Lyons actually just wrapped up a study to figure out where those market opportunities are. Right. So what they did is, cut this story short, is we partnered to find 15 anchors, largest anchors in the region. The CCAC was in it. Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, PNC, Highmark, UPMC all submitted data, so we know exactly where their money was. And then we could see where their spend was over the last 3 years. They spent $18 billion, just the 15 of them. That's 50, that's not all, $18 billion in the last 3 years of what they call addressable spend. Addressable spend is the spend that could be purchased, that could be bought locally, right? There's non-addressable spend like your FedEx contracts and that type of stuff, but the local stuff, uniforms, could be purchased locally. And so we saw a big gap in there, in that data, which the finalized report will be out next week. In that data, we will be able to see where the money is going and what our capacity is. It got compared to what the capacity was. So Riverside and the E3 network had put together some of what the companies were and their capabilities. And so they created a fairly strong list of where those companies lied. And what it's going to show is where those future opportunities are. Once we have it, it's a big premise of what Beam is going to focus on and how we can partner with the rest of the region to sort of focus on those things. That's why CMU and Pitt are a big piece of Beam, because they're going to be a big component of how do we drive some of that forward, both from a vision standpoint, education standpoint, recruiting standpoint. So it starts to tie in, but that's really the first part of your question, I think, was how we would know that. And the second part is the community piece. And I think your question was around Black people staying in the region, but they couldn't find enough of a community. Was one of the biggest complaints. Well, we do think that's also business reasons, right? I've heard from many Black men about their wives coming here and struggling to find the right salons and stuff. Like we also need to be doing that type of stuff. There can't just be, right? Those businesses also have opportunities. We should have more Black accountants, more Black lawyers, we should have a better infrastructure around those types of things. Not to say Pittsburgh doesn't have it. It is, as somebody who moved to Pittsburgh, it is a very difficult transition unless you find those networks. And I think those are part of the business ecosystem. That's why I said some are high potential and some aren't, but they're also part of it. And that growth needs to happen in addition to the larger growth, right? We can't just forget about those smaller growth, the restaurants and the little things that matter to someone who moves to the city, right? So they are a big focus of ours as well. And candidly, we do have good partners that work on that. And it's just maybe collaborating better on what those things are and helping those companies along the way as well. I hope I answered your question, Linda. Wonderful. Clarence, I see you have a question, sir.
Hey, Joel, can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, great presentation. And you and Will have certainly identified a large opportunity in Pittsburgh. I'm just interested in some of your short-term goals, say 12 months out. What does success look like for the Beam collaboration in 12 months? And then longer term, say 3 to 5 years, what would be considered a success for your organization?
So Clarence, that's a great question. So 12-month success, we already have a project with the University of Pittsburgh that should be completed in 12 months. So we'll put that on there. I can't really discuss it, but there is the one project. High level, the idea is around data. And let me explain that for a second. What people are missing around Black businesses is the struggle, the bad position that anchors have put our Black businesses in to be pass-throughs. And so it is an unfortunate challenge. And we are trying to understand how Black businesses get put into situations they are not ready for. And once you go down that path, it is very difficult to back out of it and then rebuild a strong foundational business. And so we've started to see this as a particular problem. We think that there are a number of these systems within the within Pittsburgh that we need to do some data, some research on. And the only way to do that is to really get our hands dirty and try to really understand why a Black business isn't scaling, why a business after 10 or 12 years still hasn't broken the $1 million mark. What is really happening in there? We anecdotally understand it, but we do believe that over the next 12 months, we really need to have a better understanding of what that is. And at that point, we would be able to put in a much stronger infrastructure around the stair-stepped approach to building businesses, right? So we have an idea of what it is, we have partners, but really understanding some of the challenges around Black businesses is critical. We have created a step in there called a triage phase, where we sit with the business owner and try to really understand what's urgent and on fire. What are their real immediate challenges? I couldn't even begin to tell you how long that list becomes. And as somebody who's been in consulting for a while, the lists are pretty stark. They're pretty eye-opening. And so what we've learned through the last couple of months is that there is a lot of base building that we're going to have to do. So we really want to make sure that we understand that well so that we can put everybody in a position to go forward. So I would tell you, after 12 months, we want to make sure that we have good data, good understanding of why Black businesses are where they are and what do we need to do specifically to change it. That is your question, Clarence?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Longer term, you may not have specific goals in mind because the data may tell you where you need to go. But are there any, is there one particular thing that, in 5 years, where does the Beam collaboration want to make its mark?
Yeah, so I could answer that one. And this is, at this stage of the game, this is the answer I could give. I know we've had conversations around spend and dollars and some of those things, and I'd love to be able to give you a specific number about that. But what I would really love to see is our co-collaborative model between our anchors and our Black businesses having collaborative partnerships to grow together. I would like our anchor partners every single year to pick one Black business to do so. If I can get 8 companies, right, which is where we're currently at, to have one focus every year, right? That's 8 Black businesses they're focusing on every year. If I can do that over 5 years, you do the math on it, right? Now, all of a sudden I've created change, right? As I tell people, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is right now. So either we're doing it or we're not. And so I can't help what happened 20 years ago. I cannot change those factors. What I can do is get everybody to focus on what they need to do now. And so if every company just partnered with one every year, which is not a huge lift, not a huge ask, and most of our partners would be okay with that as long as they can find the right one, right? That we think that could create a real ripple effect in the next 3 to 5 years. So that would be a goal. I would absolutely tell you that if at the end, if I had this conversation in 5 years and we were able to hit that, I'd be very proud of it. Because that in essence will create the jobs, and this, all the other stuff falls into place as long as those businesses continue to be successful.
Sounds great. Thanks, Joel.
Yes, sir. Ike.
Yeah, just curious. There's a lot of programs out there for minority-owned businesses. Government runs a lot of programs trying to encourage Black business ownership. Are they failures, or is it an issue that Pittsburgh hasn't effectively taken advantage of those?
No, I don't think they're failures. I think quite frankly, and this is not a shot at any of those individuals, what I think we do, what Beam is doing a bit differently is that every single person on my team was a business owner. Every single person engaged with us owns a business, worked in a business, scaled a business, managed budgets, we've all done it. We're not nonprofit people. We are business people that are focused on this mission. And so there are a lot of intricacies and challenges and things that we think do often get missed just by sheer experience. I mean, I could say for everybody on this call, you spend 20 years doing something. There's a lot of intricacies that are just not easy to articulate. And so we have seen that, and I cannot say that's every organization, by the way, but we have seen that pretty broadly. I would say 80% of those are organizations where the leadership has not really run a business or fought these battles from a business side at any great length. So that's one of the big advantages we think. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of. I guess I'm wondering where the connect comes. Do you think with what you're doing and with what you just described as your advantage, that you will be able to tap into more of that, or is that just an area that's not really a direction you want to go in?
When you say tap into more of
the opportunities for Black ownership, Black businesses, participation, say in government contracts and procurement, that kind of thing, wherever it is that, there's a program. I know a lot of private businesses have programs to try and encourage minority purchasing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yes, yeah, government has some and corporations have some, and sometimes they are, candidly, the RFP process is very challenging for a Black business. RFPs are very difficult to begin with, right? I think we all know that. It also makes it much harder when you have a business that doesn't have any buying power, right? So me having a low bid when I have no buying power is very challenging, right? If I can't leverage my worker to work on 3 or 4 projects at the exact same time, and I just have to hire a brand new person to work on one project, I can't shrink that cost, right? And so while they have these programs, these RFPs, they put us into positions where we have to bid for projects that candidly we were never going to win from the beginning, which goes back to the scalable problem. And so we do think that some of those behaviors are a bit misguided. But again, from people that have done RFPs for years, we know exactly how we're going to start to win some of that stuff, or what we need to do to sort of change some of those behaviors. So
there may be a role for this board to try to sort of suggest model RFPs that would be more conducive.
That would be fantastic. Dr. Bullock.
Kudos to you and Will for this exceptional concept and model program. Following up on something similar to what I believe was touching on, the concept with the infrastructure is great. Does this also include, as we all know, to do anything, you have to have money? And is there a mechanism that will help Black businesses get the capital in order to do the bigger projects? Because they are able to do the small, but when it comes to the bidding for our large capital initiatives, it's not that they don't have the skill, they don't have the capital to get the foundation to bid for the big projects.
That's a good point. And I think the capital is a challenge. And candidly, as Will and I looked into this, there are a number of organizations right now focusing on capital for Black businesses. So we didn't think it was a great use of our expertise to focus on it. Well, it's a good idea for us to partner on it. There's lots of ways to get capital. In our opinion, we think having a right foundation, building up the right business of cash flows so that your business is stable to do so is important, as opposed to just the capital infusions. We think that there has to be both. And what's happening, what we've seen happen, what we've seen happen through some of the research we've done is that Black businesses go after contracts their balance sheets are not prepared for. And so what happens is they don't have enough fundamental foundation, right? Every business needs some, as we used to say, cash cow type revenue. You need some revenue you're going to get every month to flat out that just supports your business. And we have not seen a lot of Black businesses have that really set up because we have unfortunately taught our Black businesses to go after major contracts, right? The matchmaking events, right? And those are great deals, but they take a lot of time. They're not quick processes. Getting a contract with a major company could take you 18 months. And so what you need is to have some level of stair step in between that. And so our approach is one of two things. One, connect with the organizations that are offering, from the URAs to Bridgeways to a number of different places, but also making sure that they are self-sufficient, that they have revenue streams. They are looking at a lot of the mid-market. I think Bill Flanagan had once told me 25% of the region's revenue comes from the Allegheny Conference, members of the Allegheny Conference, which would mean 75% of that's coming from mid-market companies that nobody's really thinking of. And there's a lot of them out there. And unfortunately, our Black businesses are not in that space. They're not going down there. And we think that's another avenue to not just build capability, but also to build their balance sheets. So it's sort of combining the process.
So let me just jump in here really quickly. I do not want to truncate this because it's an incredibly important discussion, but I think I want to be mindful of time and give time to Rob for his CEO report. So let's take Brandon. I know you have a question. Let's make this the last one, but not the last time we have this important discussion. Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be short. Will and Joel, this is great stuff. I would encourage you guys to have a focus on real estate in your in your future plans. And with that, I would pledge from a NAIOP perspective to work with you guys on that, because there are a number of Black developers and property owners in Pittsburgh that could definitely scale with some support and resources and relatively, it's an easier process. I don't want to say it's an easy process, but it's an easier process than some of the, other firms, other sort of firms. It's really a resource and opportunity issue.
Brandon, I appreciate it. And it has definitely not fallen off our radar. So I appreciate it. I'll definitely reach out to you and have a conversation about it.
Great. One thing I will throw in, if you haven't done it already, you might learn some interesting lessons looking at the history of women-owned businesses, WBs, and how they solved some of the problems that you're facing now, buying collectives, how they related to, yeah, you've been there, done that. Okay, so I do think similar challenges and some solutions might. Great. All right. With that, thank you, Will. Thank you, Joel. Terrific content and just the beginning of a discussion here. And I think for a future meeting, I can do this because Malone's not here. I can do this on his behalf. I think it would be really good to put on a future agenda the specific topic of how what we just heard fits in with the first presentation and how these things might be actually sculpted and gamed out to fit together operationally. So I think that'd be a worthy discussion for this board. All right, with that, Rob, you want to give us your CEO report?
Sure, and thank you again, Joel and Will. That was a phenomenal presentation. And I just keep thinking about the chart that started at 1990, that last 30 years of that gap there I'll be thinking about that for a while. And thank you all for the robust conversation this morning. As you can tell, as we've been talking about, we have shifted our agenda to focus more on strategic conversations rather than committee reports and general business moving forward. So we hope that you're noticing that. We're going to continue to do that. And the shift was made because of your input. We received from the results of the survey that we sent out. You know, we appreciated everyone's candor and feedback, and just a few more changes kind of moving forward. We're going to have communications between board sessions also. So, you know, these will come in a form of video format. We definitely don't want to put a lot of paper in front of you. So this is something that you can, you know, listen to while you're, you know, driving to work or in your office. But we want to put it in a format that's really accessible to people that, you know, we know that, you know, that you'll dig through. And I know I appreciate that when I kind of get video messages or video updates from organizations that I've been a board on, and I can play those in the office and get a snapshot of what the organization is doing. We do so much in between board meetings, and we just want to try to present a format where we can really present that to you. Not just what we're doing here at Partner4Work, but what our providers and partners are doing. Also, we want to put that in a format that is really easily accessible for you all, and that you can tap into between board meetings. So we're in the very early stages of crafting this. So you're going to have to bear with us. So the first one will be coming out in May. But, you know, as you all have, continue to give us your feedback about it. Let us know, because we definitely want to, you know, keep sharpening our process to make sure that we're delivering, you know, the information that you all need. So we also heard that, you know, earlier in this meeting and through almost every committee meeting that folks are ready for in-person meetings again. And we are going to move to, you know, a hybrid model in the future. And we're also, you know, this summer as things kind of warm up, we'll create an opportunity to just get board members together and get reacquainted. So this won't be a working board session, but definitely we haven't been out together in a while. I think I met with Debbie a few weeks ago. I don't think she had been to breakfast, she said, in a year and a half. So we know that folks want to get back out and get acquainted with each other. And you know, as an organization, you know, we have new employees here. You know, I'm new. I haven't met a lot of you face to face either. And we want to just give everyone that opportunity to, you know, get acquainted personally. So as some of you know, with the feedback for the board and input of the executive committee, I have elevated Susie Pushkar to Partner4Work's Chief Policy and Research Officer. As such, she will be directing a newly formed department that will lead research, policy, and our strategy agenda. And, you know, basically, like the last board meeting and this board meeting, Susie just does such a great job at really presenting our information to everyone. We want her to continue to do that and grow that in her department. Susie started here in a policy role, and she tells us often that data is her love language, and we want her to continue to do that here at Partner4Work. And while, and in addition, I'm also pleased to welcome, and he'll be at our next board meeting, Dr. Carl Wesley will join Partner4Work April 1st as the Chief Program Officer, overseeing adult, youth, and special workforce services. So Carl is currently the President and CEO of the Center for Self-Sufficiency, which is a nonprofit out of Milwaukee. He resides in Madison, Wisconsin, but he's moving here. So it won't be a situation where you know, he's going back and forth. He will have residence here. And I think a link to Dr. Wesley's bio is posted in the chat. If not, maybe some things are in your board packet, but we'll make sure that we get that bio out to you. So during next month's call, as Carl acclimates into his new role and Susie builds out her team, I'm just really excited for these two individuals to work together in the way that they're working, that they will work together. You know, with Susie working in programs, it's just going to present such a unique lens to how she's able to present information, present reports and data and labor market information, and really interpret that for the region. So I'm just really excited about moving forward with this team. And I think you'll see the results of that as we continue to move forward. So any questions about any of those moves? Okay. So with the assistance of Dylan and Marquise Long, Dylan Moore and Marquise Long, I embarked on, you know, we call it a listening legislative tour. So we have almost met with every legislator that touches our workforce development area from the state, local, and federal side. And these were great conversations. Some legislators were very in tune and what workforce development boards do and what we do specifically. And some of these meetings were real teaching sessions for, you know, elected officials and the real work that we do. And, you know, some didn't know that we were connected to Career Link or the job centers. They had no idea. And it was a great opportunity to really educate legislators, but also walk away with open communication where we can send them things. We gotten many feedback emails requesting items, you know, for specific workforce data about their specific legislative areas. So we've been able to really engage with our local elected officials and state and federal elected officials in a much more meaningful way. And we really made that shift during the Omicron kind of period that we had here, and really kind of went to these kind of virtual meetings with legislators, and it really helped us out a whole lot, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback about that also. So we also continue to work with the new city administration. We expect to have more formal meetings in the coming weeks regarding board compositions and the mayor's duties and engagements as far as board appointment, fiscal agent agreements, and other things. So we expect at the next board meeting that we will have a mayoral delegate added to our executive committee very soon. So look forward to that. And also Partner4Work has several speaking and PR opportunities coming up ahead also. I'll be speaking at the Future Ready Partnerships Conference on April 12th. Also be a panelist at Literacy Pittsburgh's Corporate Investor event, April 21st. Susie will be a speaker at NIOP's April chapter event, which is also on the 21st. So if anyone is interested in attending any of those, please let us know. Also, we have received and responded to media requests from the New York Times, Pittsburgh Quarterly, and the Pennsylvania Career Development Association. And we also currently have an op-ed pending with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that we are actively pitching coverage from Learn and Earn, both local and local print and television. So that's what we've been up to for the last couple months.
All right. Any discussion?
It sounds like great work. And I just want to say, Rob, I'm so happy you did that legislative work. It's so important. And I too have found that there's just big understanding gaps, which can, you know, it's just good to close those. I think it could be really helpful to our work collectively going forward.
Thank you.
I just want to add congratulations to Susie and the hard work that she's done over the years. She's certainly a great voice and has grown over the years. And I've been part of this board there, but to really be the voice and understanding about what's going out in the world there. Every time you give a presentation, Susie, I get a whole lot smarter about what's going on in the workforce world. So thank you and congratulations.
Great. All right, I'm looking at the clock. I want to add my congratulations to Susie. Thrilled for you, more thrilled for us. Thank you. And Rob, you've given a new definition to the phrase hit the ground running. Just the work that you have done and led for all of us is just been exceptional. And we're so blessed to have you at the helm here. So thank you for that. With that, I'm going to ask if this board has any further business or discussion before we open for public comment. Hearing none, we open the floor to public comment. Any public comment from anyone?
Yes, hi, this is Jennifer Nestor. So now would be my time to speak. So I just want to say good morning, everyone. Congratulations on all the progress, your promotions, just great work. And I do appreciate the opportunity for comment during the meeting, but I'll just observe and allow Frank Stasko to be our Department of Labor and Industry member for comment during like official business. Just to clarify, I am the monitor for the WIOA programs, and I would just encourage the board members to review the Three Rivers PY 2020 monitoring report and the 2022 board review report. And if you as a board member have any questions or concerns, please discuss it with the Partner4Work board staff. And then what we do, the Partner4Work board staff and I, we work together. We have ongoing discussion for technical assistance. We resolve findings, we resolve concerns for the board composition, the WIO program, fiscal and administrative monitoring. And we're really working together for the understanding, the compliance, and the development of promising practices, because we want to continue to ensure that the WIO grant funding benefits the local employers, participants, and our training providers. And great things to hear, because I've always encouraged the board staff to hold informational sessions, which encourages like the board members and our chief elected officials to visit our PA Career offices. You want to become familiar with program processes and really how your actions directly benefit those who need our workforce programs. So I love that we are continuing to promote that. And then because you asked, just kind of in line with the conversation about the BEAM collaborative, just possibly to promote that diversity, equality, inclusion, I would just encourage maybe just having a conversation to review the local Partner4Work procurement policy. Procurement is required to assure the procurements are conducted in a manner that provides full and open competition, avoids unreasonable requirements, and overly restrictive specifications as per like our financial management policy. Now, I want to be clear that Partner4Work's procurement policy does meet all of these requirements, but it may be this board that it spans promising practices and like truly does promote that diversity, equality, and inclusion. And once they do, we can promote that success throughout the Commonwealth. So it's not just the Southwestern area. We can really take that and provide that technical assistance to the local areas that you as a board develop. So thank you for your time and keep up the great work.
Great, Jennifer, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for the collaborative work that you're doing with us. It is invaluable to us, and we're really grateful for the additional time and attention that you're bringing to it. So thank you.
Of course, and thank you.
All right, with that, any further public comment? Hearing none, we thank all of you for attending and look forward to talking further at our next meeting. Thanks again to all of the fantastic presenters today.
Thanks, Laura, for great meeting, great leading the meeting.